Way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises early in the morning. Hi, I'm Rod. That's our first mate, Louie.
Don't you dare.
And this is the Dread Pirate Captain Jeebs, scourge of the vast green sea. To you landlubbers and scallywags, that's the backyard. Today, we're going to show you how to tie a trucker's hitch. Okay, we're going to tie this knot around this little spindle, three individual knots. First, we're going to start off with an anchor hitch. If you look this up in the order books, it's called an anchor bend. The International Guild of Knot Tiers has recently changed its name to an anchor hitch, which is a more appropriate name. This is also a variation of the anchor hitch. So, the reason I'm tying this knot is 1, because it doesn't slip, 2, because it doesn't jam. Jamming is the term that's used for when you pull too much pressure on a knot. The knot tends to heat up with so much friction that it either blends the fibers of the rope together or literally melts them in the case of synthetic fibers, and melts them together, so that it's really hard or impossible to untie it and you have to cut it. This one won't jam quite so easily. It has a really high strength because of the way the knot goes around, wraps around twice. If you tie it on something thinner, this double wrap here tends to make it not unwind. This is a pretty nice knot. So I'm going to untie it again and I'll walk you through it. The anchor hitch goes twice around, once, twice. Pull yourself some slack there. Go twice around through the insides of those loops, once, twice, and snug it all up. Now this knot you can't tie while there's tension on the rope, so this is typically the first anchor that you tie, the first anchoring knot that you tie to get yourself started. So like if you were tying something down on the roof of your car, you'd crawl underneath the front side or the back side, and this would be the first knot you tie. Then you take the working end of the rope and toss it over top the load plus the car, and you would put a loop in it. So the working end that would come around through your anchor on the other side of the car, and you'd pull some extra slack. And before you pulled it all the way tight, you'd come down here and you would tie what's called a give me a second and I'll remember, Alpine Butterfly loop. So the Alpine Butterfly loop, in this case of a trucker's hitch, we're going to use this as a pulley. Okay, you saw me do it once real quick. This is a look at the knot. I'm going to undo it and show you again. So you don't even need the end of the rope to tie this. So you start and you pull the rope crossways across your fingers. Use these three, go around them, and then cross them back over. Pour yourself a little bit of slack in there and feed it up through where they cross. Pull the ends to snug it up, and then you want to try and keep these from crossing each other as much as you can, because you want all of the tension on the rope to go pretty much as straight as possible. And again, I'm using this knot for a couple of reasons. At the end of this, after I show you how to tie a trucker's knot, I'll show you another advanced feature. And basically, we're going to be using this as a pulley to multiply the tension that we pull finishing off the knot so that we can really romp down on the load on the top of the car. So that's an Alpine Butterfly hitch. The last one that I'm going to show you is called a round and 2/2 hitches. And the nice thing about this knot, as opposed to the anchor hitch, is that the round turn and 2/2 hitches knot can be tied while the rope is under tension. So the way that you would do this is you would wrap these twice underneath the car, and hopefully there's enough slack in here that you can pull down on this and really romp down on it. Get some real tension going here, so that's nice and snug. And then while that's nice and snug, you take this around, pull it up through. Now you can pull that snug again, and while that's snug, you can pull this tight. The first one will lock it in. Now, for the second half hitch, you always want to try whenever you can and you're tying a knot. You want to keep the loops going in a nice even flow. So you notice that this loop is going this way. So you want to continue it around again. And this is the second half hitch. And it's similar to the anchor hitch that I showed you earlier, in that the tension is in this, the tension of the load is being transferred to this bar by the way that this wraps around. It's different because this is basically just locking in place and it's not looped through the other piece, which means it'll also be easier to untie. Okay, now I'm going to switch strings on you and take you to a different location and show you how to tie the trucker hitch as a whole. And then I'll show you another advanced feature, so bear with me here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is another thing I'll show you in another film how to make. If you're doing leather tying, this is called a tamale. If you're into Japanese bondage, this is called a hanawaka or something like that. Otherwise, this is just a little spindle, or if you're in rope tying, this is called a spindle. Okay, so again, we're going to start off and we're going to pretend like these are the two connectors in the car. So on the first connector, we're going to tie our little anchor hitch. Can you come closer? Okay, anchor hitch, around twice, through twice, snug it all up, pull that one tight, and I got it backwards, so let's undo that.
Pause it.
No, mistakes happen. You don't edit them out, you just deal with the mistakes. And you notice that I said that that one was backwards because the last thing in the world I want is this knot to have to take a 90-degree bend just so that I can pull it over the car. Again, the reason that this knot works so well without causing a weakness in the rope is because it transfers that load straight around here and puts all of the tension, instead of on the knot, it puts the tension on this thing as you pull it tight. Okay, so this would be the first piece. Then we'll come around. We need our little pulley. So we create ourselves a little pulley with the Alpine Butterfly hitch. Then this is hanging there. It's near the end. And we would loop this through the other part of the car, just like so. Our load would be under here somewhere. And then, can you get a shot over here? So we're using this as another pulley on the other side, as well as an anchor point. So this loops through that end, goes through our pulley / loop. And then we come back down here for the final hitch. Round. I don't know why they call it a round when it wraps around twice. That's the way they call it. So that's a round. Again, I'm going to lift this so I can put tension on it and you can see it. Okay, now what I'm going to do, the way that you would do this is you would help feed it down through there by pulling on this. Now before I tighten this down, I want to explain what we're doing here. Okay, so if I had 5 pounds pulling in this direction and 10 pounds pulling that direction, what would happen is the rope would slip. Likewise, if I had 10 pounds pulling in this direction and 5 pounds pulling in that direction, it would slip this way. So if I have 10 pounds on here, if this rope is not slipping, and I have 10 pounds on here, that means that there's 10 pounds of tension here, there's 10 pounds of tension there, and there's 10 pounds of tension there. All I've done is pulled here 10 pounds, but I've got 10 plus 10 plus 10. That's 30 pulling all that way in one direction, which means this guy is pulling in 30 pounds. So just by me pulling 10 pounds, I have multiplied that by 3. So that's why this trucker's hitch is so nice for when you're tying down a load on top of a car. You pull 10 pounds here, you get 30 pounds of tension on the load in the car. Now we got a round on here, we're snugged up. like a guitar string. We're all snugged up. Now, while I'm holding tension on this guy, I'm going to loop through here with the half hitch, first half hitch, and I'm going to do a little magic trick here and transfer the tension to that guy, and then just slowly pull it down. There's my first half hitch. Now, I'm going to put the second half hitch in here, which will lock the first one in place. Again, notice I'm trying to keep some tension on here until I get this second locking half hitch in place. Again, I'm going to do a little magic trick to transfer the tension there and then slowly slide it down. Now what I've got here is a round of 2 half hitches that's tied under tension. Pulling this 10 pounds, I've applied 30 pounds across the top of the car to hold my load into place. Now, as I explained, now that I've shown you how to do a trucker's hitch, this complete knot, a set of 3 all together, is called a trucker's hitch. Now that I've showed you that, I'm going to show you one of the reasons, another reason why we chose the Alpine Butterfly. If you did this if you had a course in civil engineering, then you would know how to make a block and tackle. If you work as a farmer, you know how to make a block and tackle. We're going to show you how to do it in rope. So take that last part of the knot out. Like I said, one loop here created a ×3 multiplier. To take the Alpine Butterfly out, you spread its wings apart, because if there's any binding that's jammed the knot, that'll bust it loose. And then from here, you can pull that apart a little bit, and then it just slides right apart. So no matter how much tension you put onto that, that knot will likely come out. Okay, now here's the advanced part. I showed you how to make an Alpine Butterfly knot. Cross your hand, loop around once, then cross your hand, pull that, loop it through. Now I'm going to show you how to do a double Alpine Butterfly loop. Cross here. Instead of looping once, we're going to go a second time and then cross. Pull the pair of this through that knot. Gets a little bit more messier, so we have to take a little more time to tidy this up. Pull some tension. Just like before, we want to try and make sure that these don't show any real crossings. We want it nice and neat so that the tension transfers as little as possible to the knot. Now I've got 2 pulleys here, right? So loop that through there once. Come through the first pulley. Loop that through there a second time. Go through the second pulley. Loop that through there the third time. Now look how much tension I can get on this rope. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now applying 10 pounds here, I got 50 pounds there. But wait, if you act now, for the same low price of no dollars and no cents, I'll show you how to multiply it by 7 times. Because instead of doing 2 pulleys here, again, spread the wings apart to bust the knot loose. Spread those wings. Pull that out a little bit, and then you should just be able to pull the loops out, and the knot will capsize all on its own. So now for the same low price, 1, 2, 3 times around. Now I'm not going to finish this knot because you should pretty much figure out how all this works. Loop those through there. You got 3 pulleys. Okay, so now once you tidy this knot up and you lace that all through there, you'll have 2, you'll have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times multipliers. And, you know, as much room as you have rope to keep lacing this, there's little limit. The one problem that you'll find, though, is that the more of these ropes that use as pulleys, the more you're going to lose the multiplier and friction. But even worse than that, by the time you get up to ×5 multiplier, I mean, this is a special kind of string. This is called paracord 550. It's used during World War II to make parachutes with. And the 550 stands for this little teeny thin rope will hold 550 pounds of tension before you risk snapping it. And the real trick to this is that there's some very strong nylon threads that run through the center of this. The sheath around the outside isn't what really holds the weight. It's the nylon strings that go on the inside. Okay, so if you figure a 5 times multiplier, even if you're a skinny little waif of a girl, you probably weigh close to 100 pounds, which means as you're tensioning that down across the car, all you have to do is pull this underneath your foot to apply some of that tension and step down on it. And if you weigh anything close to 100 pounds, times 10 times 5 is 250 pounds. You're starting to get dangerously close to the load-bearing weight of this rope itself, much more, and it's going to start to risk snapping. So you really probably don't want to do this more than a double alpine loop. But that's all for today. Jeeves, 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 singing to Mr. Jeeves. Goodness, how exciting, singing to Mr. Jeeves.